Chapter 27. City of Ghosts. D. Dorian stood atop the walls of Hyphara, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon where thin spires of smoke curled into the sky like ghostly fingers. The enemy was on the move. Below him, the city bristled with desperate energy, soldiers hauling stones, hammering barricades, and digging trenches into the frozen earth beyond the gates. The acrid scent of smoke thickened the air, mingling with the metallic tang of sweat and steel. Orders were barked. Runners darted from station to station, and beneath it all, fear and tension clung to the streets like an oppressive fog. He turned away from the looming battle preparations, his cloak billowing behind him as he strode down the stone steps. His heart pounded, not with fear of the coming siege, but with the weight of something far worse. He was going to see Olivia. He owed her that much. As he moved through the streets, soldiers paused to acknowledge him with brief nods or murmured words of respect. Their faces hardened with the resolve of men who knew they would not see another summer. Some tightened the straps of their armor. Others ran wheat stones along the edges of their blades with quiet determination. The city itself was a husk of what it had once been. Shops abandoned, homes emptied, its usual bustling life replaced by the grim efficiency of war. The only people left were those who had no choice, the soldiers preparing to fight, and the civilians too weak, too stubborn, or too poor to flee. He passed an old man sweeping his doorstep, clinging to a routine that no longer mattered. At last, he reached the grand building Olivia had used when visiting the city. Once a place of warmth and quiet refinement, it now stood like a tomb. The banners that had once adorned the entrance, symbols of prestige and belonging, were gone, stripped away when she had fallen from grace. Outside the house, Kane stood speaking with one of the guards. Dorian drew in a deep breath and pressed on. There was no point in delaying. He would have to face him sooner or later.
Kane?
Dorian said with a firm nod toward the two men in discussion. Kane turned.
Dorian, good to see you. Even if I wish things were different.
His shoulders sagged as he looked up at the sky.
We were supposed to have all the forces of the Isle united under our banners, ready to face the coming onslaught.
And what are we now?
Failed rebels, waiting for the boy king to pass judgment.
He shook his head.
How did they outmaneuver us, Dorian? Why did Cedric repledge his loyalty to Ghalen? I don't understand.
Dorian raised his hands in mock surrender.
I don't know, Kane. But all we can do now is fight for those who remain. Be it for the boy king or for Cedric, we must show that good people will fight for a good cause.
But his stomach churned. He didn't know what weighed heavier on his conscience, joining the rebellion or helping to end it. Running a hand through his hair, he pressed on.
Will you fight, Kane? I hear the Southern Lords have rallied behind you.
Kane spat into the dirt. We will fight, but it will be a short battle, he said.
So I gather,
Dorian replied, his gaze drifting to a few poorly equipped soldiers heading for the gate.
I'd much rather be inside these walls when they come, but who am I to question the vote of the majority?
Kane exhaled. I'd rather face them out there while we still have some strength left than starve behind these northerners' walls.
There is no help coming, Dorian. We must fight. I know.
Dorian placed a reassuring hand on Kane's shoulder. Then his eyes flickered toward the door, where two guards stood stationed.
And Olivia?
Kane frowned.
She is under arrest by her own bannermen. There can be no mistake, Dorian. Rumors spread like wildfire about her defying the mountain to the boy king.
Dorian stared at the ground. Lady Elena's whispers were nothing short of devastating.
Her eldest fell from grace from a great height. Her youngest son was found dead in his bed. And when she could no longer access her money, it was over. I don't rule out poison for her second son's death, but it was too late. They avoid her like the plague. Olivia's rule is over. Can I see her?
Kane sighed.
She doesn't get many visitors. I'm sure she will see you.
The guard stepped aside as he approached. A single lantern flickered beside the door, its feeble light casting twisted shadows against the weathered wood. He hesitated before knocking. The door creaked open without resistance, revealing the dim interior. She sat by the window, her fingers trailing idly over the rim of a long, empty goblet. The movement was slow, absent, like she'd forgotten why she held it at all. The candlelight flickered over her face, once regal, now hollowed by sorrow. Her cheekbones stood out sharply. the shadows beneath her eyes deep as bruises. Her skin had taken on a pallor that made her look almost ghostly. Strands of unkempt hair clung to her temples. When she finally looked at him, it was without urgency, without the fire she once carried so effortlessly. Her shoulders slumped, her frame swallowed by a gown that hung too loose. She looked smaller, not just in body, but in presence.
"Dorian,"
Olivia murmured.
"come to see what remains of me."
He wanted to say no. That wasn't why he was here. But the words stuck in his throat. He had seen the ruin of men before, but never had he seen Olivia like this.
"I wanted to see you,"
he admitted. She scoffed, but the sound lacked its usual bite.
"Then you are the only one. It must make you happy, seeing me like this. I know you never liked me much."
A lump formed in his throat, guilt clawing at the edges of his resolve. He wanted to tell her the truth, to explain, to justify, to ask for understanding. But there was no room for such things now.
"I wanted to say, I am sorry,"
Dorian said quietly.
"You should leave, Dorian. Rejoin the living. There's nothing here but ghosts."
Olivia turned back to the window, her voice barely more than a breath. As Dorian walked back toward his quarters, a small prayer formed in the back of his mind. He prayed that Ghalen would return and make right all the wrongs he had caused.
"I, the seasoned soldier, the man of valor, who men cling to for hope, want the boy king to come solve my problems?"
He did not know whether to laugh or cry.